Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a video doing an unboxing, review, and first time taste test of the Atlas Coffee Club monthly subscription box. The way I signed up for this was kind of a roundabout way. Through Planet Fitness, they actually offer you a $30 coupon through nif.com at the time of your birthday. And so when that happened, I came across Atlas Coffee Club as one of the coupons you could apply that code to. And so I signed up for about 3 months where it's at a discounted rate for about $8 per month for a bag of coffee, which is very cheap and affordable as compared to other options on the market. And so this box here is the first month of that subscription. And so what we'll do in this video is basically unbox this, show you the coffee beans, what comes in the box, and then I'll walk through brewing this in my usual pour over method, and we'll do a taste test of how it performs or how it tastes as compared to my traditional coffee. As always, if you're interested in potentially signing up for Atlas Coffee Club, I'll leave links in the description below for where you can get it on their website. Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar with Atlas Coffee Club, it's a company that provides monthly subscription boxes that provide coffee from all across the world. They list it as being the top 1% of beans that are roasted, and each month they provide a unique roast that's from a certain location as far as the region, the altitude, and everything like that. So it's a great way to get exposed to new types of coffee and different roasts that you traditionally would not be able to get through your routine like local stores or local roasteries. And so I signed up for this at a discounted rate for about $8 per month using the NIF coupon code that I had. And so this is the first month that I had, so we'll just open this box, take a look at what comes inside, and then we'll walk through brewing this in the traditional way. And so this one's actually from several months ago. It's probably a little bit outdated as far as that, but this is going to be their Salvador blend. They basically, you can, when you sign up for this, you can sign up for a certain amount of beans. So this is their 1 bag amount. So looking at the box, I thought it was going to be much smaller than it is, but this is probably about it says right here, so it's 12 ounces, which is 340 grams. Ingredients are coffee, and basically it shows kind of details regarding that. The packaging is pretty cool. It's unique to the location, and the overall design is pretty elegant and like artistic from that standpoint. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, in here, let's take a look at what else is in the box. They have 2 separate codes or cards. So right here they have a postcard from El Salvador. Basically that's what it looks like, and it kind of has an interesting information about the country, information there, the overall geographic layout of it. And this is a postcard. You could actually send it out if you really wanted to. All you would need is a postage stamp. There's address area there, so you could always send it to somebody if you want, but it's from El Salvador. That's that. And then here is the information that I believe is about the coffee. So it says El Salvador, its tasting notes is going to be red apple, butterscotch, and biscotti. Those are flavors that I would never taste on my own. It's something that I usually go just basically straight dark coffee. It says try it with a Chemex. I use a bottom pour over, so that's great there. And then the roast level is a medium, so it shows light, medium, roast, and it's right in the middle of the medium roast. Additionally, they have information about El Salvador's coffee history. I'll read this off real quick. So El Salvador's coffee history. Coffee was known early on in El Salvador as the grain of gold for its promise and progress and wealth. By the 1930s, coffee made up an incredible 90% of El Salvador's exports, but was controlled by just a handful of coffee barons. After nearly a century of forced labor and displacement, rural workers began to organize and eventually reclaim their land. And in the aftermath of the Civil War in the 1980s, coffee finally emerged as a pathway to prosperity for small farmers. Challenges remain, but today small growers are beginning to experiment with new high-grade varieties to adjust their growing and processing practices to conserve water and native ecosystems, meaning some of the coffee coming out of El Salvador is incredibly unique and rare. So that's pretty cool and unique. You learn about the company, the country, the origin, where this is coffee is growing from. As far as the region, it says, I might mess this up, but it's Chalatenango, It's a wash process. Altitude is 1,500 to 1,800 meters, and it's basically says the coffee notes. El Mural provides a beautiful mosaic and delicious notes, full and juicy fruit notes similar to red apple, a sweetness like butterscotch, and a finish reminiscent of biscotti. A wonderful coffee that's both familiar and comforting, but also complex and exciting, as if by arbitrary design. And so that's everything that comes in the box. So you've got the postcard, you've got the coffee, and then you've got this unique kind of information about the coffee. And so what we'll do now is I'll set up doing a brew with this, and we'll do a first time taste test with it. Okay, so here's everything I use in order to make my coffee using the pour over method. I've got the Brewista kettle, the Zassenhaus grinder, this like espresso brush, the Time More black mirror scale, and then I use the Bodum Bistro pour over method, as well as kind of like basic filters. I already opened this briefly, but there's actually a nice peel tab at the top with a built-in Ziploc container in order to keep the beans fresh. The aroma is like a nice, rich kind of like coffee smell. Definitely smells fresh. Definitely smells like straight out of like the roastery. So it's really good from that standpoint. What we'll do here is what we're going to do is do about like 30 grams of coffee. And so what I'll do is first scoop out about 3 scoops worth or 4 scoops worth. That'll go directly into the Zassenhaus grinder. Sorry, it's like I'm making a mess. The one drawback of this like Ziploc container is it's not the biggest, so I'll probably transfer this over to one of my other storage containers to keep it fresh. But that's the beans in the actual grinder. If you look here, this is what they look like. So they're kind of like a medium roast for sure, not too oily, definitely not a dark roast. Don't have much oil to it, so it's definitely fresh from that standpoint. And then what we'll do is we'll just grind this up and start grinding. And so that was ground at like the fine roast or fine grind for the Zassenhaus. This is what it'll look like after that. And so it's like a fine consistency as far as the beans for the grind. Now what we'll do is we'll heat up the water. So for this is the Brewista kettle. We'll just basically allow this to heat up to about 207 degrees. I have a thermometer. Once it's all set at the right temperature, then we'll do the pour over. But in the meantime, we'll set up the Bodum pour over. So for when the water's ready, we can start. So for those of you that do not have a Time More Black Mirror Plus, I highly recommend it. It's an amazing coffee scale. This allows you to customize and tailor every single brew so that it's made exactly how you want it, and you'll get consistency from one brew to the next. What you'll see here real quick is the weight when you push down will be on the right hand side. So first what we'll do is we'll put the Bodum pour over on here. We'll hit the tare button, set it to 0. Then what I typically do is I just wet the filter with water and then just put it on the top here. All right, and then usually it's about 7 ounces or so, which is exactly where it's at, and then we'll tare this again. All right, so that gives you the amount, or the system all set up and ready to go. Now we'll take the coffee grinds from the Zassenhaus and pour it directly in. All right, and what we'll try to do is get about 25 grams or so, maybe 30. As you can tell, this was only 20 with 3 scoops, so what I'll do is real quickly I'll grind some more and then we'll put it in as well. Alright, so I ground the rest of the coffee. We'll just pour this in, look at the overall weight, and so it's about 29.7. We'll get the rest out with the brush. And so that brings it out to 29.8 as far as the weight. For this, because it's a medium roast, I don't know the best ratio as far as this, but what I always do is I'll just pull up my calculator on my phone. I'll basically put 29.8, and then we'll try like a ratio of 1 to 14 or 1 to 15 for the water. That's kind of a good ratio, so we'll hit times 15, and that gives the fluid ounces of the amount of water that I'll have to add. And so once the water's heated, we'll add 447 grams of water for doing the pour over method. Okay, so while we're waiting for the water to get to the right temperature, I did want to note that I do use a diary to keep track of every brew that I have. So what I do is I keep the date, the type of beans that I'm using, the ratio that I'm using, and then the grind, and then the specific ratio as far as what I use as far as grind to water. And then I'll make notes as far as the overall aroma, how it brews, and pointers for the next brew, and whether I want to adjust the ratio. And that's something that I found works extremely well to making sure that you fine-tune the brew from one brew to the next. And once you get it right, you can always go back and use this as a diary or reference to get to the right brew for each type of bean that you use. And so this is the first time I'm using this, but I'll keep track and we'll fine-tune this further with the pour over method once we're ready. But as far as the water, it's now at the right temperature. And so what we're going to do here is we're just going to first pour a little bit of water in circular motion. Oops, sorry. I have to subtract that because I didn't start this right. So I'll subtract 9 off of it, so it'll be like 331. But basically you'll just, the nice thing about the time war is once you start pouring water, it'll keep track of both the time as well as the weight. And so what we'll do here is we'll just do circular motions as far as the pour over method. We'll get the coffee beans to bloom a little bit, and then we'll do the rest of the pour once that's all set. And so what I do is I just make sure that all the beans in the inside here are all wet and moist, and then I'll sit for about 1 minute and 30 seconds to let it bloom, and then we'll do the rest of the pour from there. All right, so almost all the water's through, so I'm not gonna wait any longer, but now we'll just pour the rest, and we'll pour this all the way up to 331 grams. And we just got to keep track of that as we go. But I just use small circular motions, allow the water to wet the beans, and then just make sure that you kind of continue this process and don't miss any specific areas. A lot of times with the edges, you have to just be careful around there where you don't pour directly on the filter. Instead, you pour on the beans themselves. So we're almost there, so we're gonna get to 331 with my mistake earlier. And there we go. So we're just 3 grams over, but that's not terrible for this. And now we'll just let it run all the way through and brew all the way through. I accidentally hit it, so it stopped on its own, but it'll run all the way through. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the water through here. There's not much more dripping here. So we'll just take that, put it aside, and compost that in a second. As far as the bottom, we'll just put this plunger in, and then we'll pour ourselves a cup of coffee. And so it's almost the perfect amount for the 12 ounce or 14 ounce Yeti. What I always do is I'll taste this straight black, freshly brewed. Let me just taste real quick. And I gotta say, that's much better than I anticipated. It's got, so even with roasting it for the first time, it's got like a very rich coffee flavor to it. It's not bitter whatsoever. It's not overbrewed. It didn't over extract. It just tastes really good and rich. I'll describe it as a little bit darker at the 15 ratio. So if you feel like it's a little bit too strong, you might want to back off and increase it to like 16 or 17. But based on this taste, I probably won't even mess with it. As far as the sweet apple, let me see if I can taste that. There's a very hint of sweetness in the beginning where you'll get a little bit of sweetness. I don't taste any butterscotch. I don't really taste any biscotti, but in general, it tastes as like a good cup of coffee that's very rich, not overly bitter, anything like that. So I really do like this based on the brew experience for this first cup. I will try to fine tune it a little bit, see if I can make it a little bit better. But in general, this is the first experience with the El Salvador Atlas Coffee Club coffee. This is something that I'm going to try for the upcoming 3 months, and we'll just see how it works and whether I want to continue this. This is a decent amount of coffee, so it's not cheap. It's not like they're charging too much for the amount of coffee you get. I don't know if I would pay the full price at like $16, $17 for this, but $8 at a discounted rate is well worth it as compared to buying something in the store. So if you have questions, comments, post them below, but this is just like a trial with the El Salvador Salvador Atlas Coffee Club coffee. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, post them below, and as always, please like and subscribe as well.